Ladies and gentlemen, the academic procession will enter shortly. You are kindly requested to stand.
Bomma le botate, molokoloko wa diruteri o tla tsena ka nako e kopana, le kgopelwa go ema.
Dames en here, die akademiese prosesie sal binnekort inbeweeg. U word versoek om asseblief op te staan.
By the power vested in me, I hereby constitute this assembly as a legal congregation of the University of Pretoria. During this assembly, degrees with all the associated rights and privileges will be conferred to the candidates whose names appear in the program. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, we request you to join us in silent prayer or meditation to give thanks for the achievements of our graduates. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of Pretoria, I extend a hearty word of welcome to you at this graduation ceremony. I'd like to welcome a number of people, specifically as individuals and categories of people. First, the recipient of an honorary degree, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, the Director General of the World Health Organization. The Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, Professor Tian Diaha, the Deputy Dean for Stakeholder Relations, Professor Flavia Sekuboge, the Deputy Dean for Teaching and Learning, Professor Vanessa Steenkamp, the Deputy Dean for Research and Postgraduate Education, Professor Tivani Mashamba Thompson, the Registrar of the University, Professor Caroline Nicholson. Categories of people, chairpersons of schools, heads of departments, directors, emeriti, and honorary professors, and other lecturers, their spouses, and their partners. Representative of the Student Representative Council who will present the SRC academic honorary colors. All persons to whom degrees will be conferred to this afternoon. All spouses, partners, parents, and other parties, as well as dignitaries who we may not be aware of. I now request the Dean to introduce to me the candidate for the honorary doctorate.
Mr. Vice Chancellor and Principal, I have the honor to introduce to you Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus for the conferment of the degree Doctor of Medicine honoris causa. Dr. Tedros was elected World Health Organization Director General for 5 years by the WHO member states at the 70th World Health Assembly in May 2017 and was re-elected for a second term in May 2022 during the 75th World Health Assembly. He is the first person from WHO Africa region to head the world's leading public health agency. Dr. Tedros was born in Eritrean city of Asmara. He graduated from the University of Asmara with a Bachelor of Biology before earning a Master of Science in Immunology of Infectious Diseases from the University of London, a doctorate in Community Health from the University of Nottingham, and an honorary fellowship from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Following his studies, Dr. Tedros returned to Ethiopia to support the delivery of health services, first working as a field-level malariologist before heading a regional health service and later serving Ethiopia's federal government for over a decade as Minister of Health and Minister of Foreign Affairs. As Minister of Health from 2005 to 2012, he led the comprehensive reform of the country's health system, building on universal health coverage and provided services to all people, even in the most remote areas. Under his leadership, Ethiopia expanded its health infrastructure, developed innovative health financing mechanisms, and expanded the health workforce. A major component of reforms was the creation of a primary healthcare extension program that developed 40,000 female health workers throughout the country. A significant result was the approximate 60% reduction in child and maternal health mortalities. As Minister of Foreign Affairs from 2012 to 2016, he elevated health as a political issue nationally, regionally, and globally. In his role, he led efforts to negotiate the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, in which 193 countries committed to financing sustainable development goals. Before being elected as Director General of WHO, Dr. Tedros held many leadership positions in global health, such as Chair of Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, Chair of the Rollback Malaria Partnership, and Co-Chair of the Partnership for Maternal, Newborn, and Child Health Board. After taking office as WHO Director General, Dr. Tedros initiated the most significant transformation in the organization's history, which has generated a wide range of achievements. In summary, Dr. Tedros' enormous, exceptional contribution globally during the COVID-19 pandemic and over the years in the field of public health and epidemiology as scientist, global health expert, diplomat, and advocate, together with his innovative leadership to reshape global public health, has been unmatched. It is therefore with great honor, Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, that I request you to confer the honorary doctorate on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree of Doctor of Medicine honoris causa with all its associated rights and privileges on Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. Congratulations. I now have the honor to request Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus to address the Assembly.
Thank you so much, Chancellor Kampepe, Vice Chancellor Kupe, Dean Dijegar, to all dignitaries, graduates, students, faculty and staff of the University of Pretoria, dear colleagues and friends, including my family, my wife Kudist, Brooke and Belen, who are with me today. Let us begin by remembering the words of Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. As some of you are aware, Nelson Mandela Madiba was awarded an honorary law doctorate here at the University of Pretoria in 1997 for his commitment to equality, justice, and reconciliation. And in fact, the first time he came to speak at the university, 6 years earlier, he was shouted down by an angry crowd. But as we all know, he persisted, and for that, we all triumphed. The lesson there is twofold. Never stop trying, because things can change for the better. And so today, I accept this honorary doctorate with both great pride and humility. I'm grateful to be an adopted member of the University of Pretoria family. The university is known for its standout work in disciplines including engineering, economics, business, microbiology, and plant and animal science, including important work on malaria that I share. I am a malaria expert with the Dean. Please accept my warm congratulations to all graduates today, and to your families and to your mentors. As graduates, your journey does not end today. It's just beginning. You have gone from being a student in school to a student in life. I was asked to talk a bit about my own journey, so I thought I would do that by focusing on 4 themes, rather 5. First, anything is possible. Second, challenges come with opportunities. Third, continuous improvement is important, change as a constant. And fourth, humanity first. I think the 5th one, the last one, I will tell you when I end the speech. It's a surprise. First, anything is possible. As a child growing up in Ethiopia, I saw firsthand the effects of violence, poverty, and disease in my community. And I belong to a poor family. As yet today, here I am, Director General of the World Health Organization. It's certainly not something I ever expected would happen, because when I was a child, my mother's only prayer was for me to survive just a day. So what's the lesson there? A better future is possible. And in the meantime, work hard, because you never know when you may face a great challenge and when your chance to shine will come. The second point then is challenges come with opportunities. When I took on this role as Director General of WHO, I did not know that we would soon face an Ebola outbreak in North Kivu, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. This was a place of unrest and violent conflict. It took 2 years to contain, working long and hard with our partners in government and in the communities. In the process, we lost 2 of our colleagues, murdered in cold blood by armed groups who operate in North Kivu. Of course, Ebola was followed by the COVID-19 pandemic. This was a challenge on many levels. As you know, unprecedented challenge. This was a new disease which we had never seen before. And it was accompanied by a second pandemic, a pandemic of misinformation and falsehoods. WHO also faced significant pressure due to geopolitical confrontations, nationalism, and the politicization of COVID. The only way to deal with such extraordinary difficulties is to stay focused on your work, following the science and the evidence, and to keep people at the center of our efforts. And that's what my colleagues and I did throughout the pandemic. So when the challenges come, as they always do, you must be prepared and you must be ready. As I often say, the time to fix the roof is before the rains come. Which brings me to number 3, continuous improvement. Change as a constant. That means learning lessons by assessing where we have been and where we're going. WHO was founded 75 years ago in the aftermath of the Second World War in 1948. Over 3/4 of a century, WHO and our partners in countries and communities had many accomplishments: eradicating smallpox, pushing polio to the brink, global curbs on smoking and trans fats, increasing life expectancy. We have played key roles in the fight against diseases like HIV, TB, Ebola, malaria, measles, you name it. At the core of our work is the belief that global cooperation and solidarity can help us to reach the highest possible level of health for all people, everywhere, as WHO's Constitution says. Throughout, our focus is on continuous improvement. These transformational changes began even before the pandemic, as Dean indicated earlier. As Director General, my priority is to make sure that WHO is ready to take on the challenges of the next 5 years. This includes strengthening our health emergencies, science and data programs, improving the global health architecture, and focusing on country impact. We're also working to nurture future young global health leaders from Africa and around the world. It's critical that now, with the recent challenges of COVID-19, we learn its lessons. Profound inequities badly undermined our work to contain the pandemic, especially in the unequal global distribution of life-saving tools like vaccines, tests, and treatments. It was a clear demonstration that the global system is in need of repair and rethinking, because health for all means all, rich and poor, north and south, east and west. To address these inequities, WHO and partners established the mRNA Technology Transfer Hub here in South Africa. Local production is critical to preparing for the next pandemic or epidemic. 15 countries from Latin America, from Africa itself, from Asia, Europe are collaborating with South Africa to ensure local production and address the equity issue. I visited the hub yesterday. The progress is remarkable, with huge promise for increasing access to vaccines of COVID-19, but the technology of mRNA can also be used for HIV, tuberculosis, and other diseases. WHO is also committed to supporting the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Africa Medicines Agency. Because as we look to the future, Africa should never again be the last in line to receive vaccines, tests and treatments, and other life-saving tools. So whenever you have challenges, take it as opportunity to find improvement. That's what I try to do every day. And I remember often where I came from and how I got here. It's truly a privilege and an honor to work at WHO. The fourth theme is humanity first. Whether you go on to work in the public or private sector, please always put humanity first. These pandemic years clearly demonstrated that nationalism and selfishness hinder progress. They do not help. When I say nationalism, narrow nationalism. Of course, enlightened nationalism could be okay. It's also clear that health must be at the center of all we do. As you have all seen, health crisis can affect societies, economies, and stability. When health fails, everything can fail. Make no mistake, dear graduates, my colleagues and friends, you're graduating at a very difficult time in the world with a climate crisis, profound inequality, major conflicts and wars, and injustice. We must put health and humanity first, with solidarity and global cooperation, because the world does not get better unless we work together to make it better. So, throughout your careers, keep listening and learning and trying. Try everything. Because, as Madiba taught us, we can all make a difference. And that takes me to the fifth theme, which I kept. This is about my son, my daughter, my son are graduating today. Pave the way. That's a song I selected for you. Brenda Fessy. And all the best, and I thank you. And again, thank you so much for this great honor. And when I take this honor, I take it as recognition for WHO. Proud to be WHO. Thank you so much.
Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, thank you very much for your address. Your own personal story, the story of the organization that you lead, the World Health Organization, is testimony to turning challenges into opportunities and making a difference locally and globally. Thank you very much. I now request the Dean to introduce to me the candidates present whose names appear in the program.
Mr. Vice Chancellor and Principal, the supervisors will now introduce the doctorate candidates from the School of Medicine.
Mr. Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Glenn Dale Buchanan, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis titled Root and Canal Morphology of a Black South African Population Using Cone Beam Computed Tomography, prepared under my supervision and with Professor Albert van Schoor as co-supervisor. In this thesis, the candidate described the prevailing endodontic anatomy of a previously unreported population group and geographic area. For the first time, using three-dimensional imaging and two classification systems, the characterization of dental anatomy relevant to the clinical practice of endodontics in Black South African subjects was made. The anatomical structures of several different tooth types in local subjects were compared to other population groups. The influence of sex and age on these configurations was determined. The candidate demonstrates clinically significant anatomical variations for all tooth types evaluated in this population group. This highlights the need for accurate population-specific morphological data to improve the provision of endodontic care in South Africa and the broader South African region. Mr. Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Francois Christian Dutoy, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy in Sports Science Biokinetics with a thesis titled Epidemiology and Risk Factors Associated with Overuse Injuries, including patellofemoral pain in recreational cyclists, prepared under my supervision and with Professor Martin Schwellnus and Dr. Helen Bain as co-supervisors. In his thesis, the candidate explored the clinical characteristics, severity, and treatment modalities of gradual onset injuries, and specifically patellofemoral pain in cyclists, and identified risk factors associated with gradual onset injuries, and specifically patellofemoral pain in cyclists. The first three studies of his PhD examined the self-reported injury and risk factor data from 62,758 recreational cyclists entering a one-day cycling event. The fourth study was a laboratory-based, non-experimental matched case control study exploring lower limb functional tests and frontal plane knee kinematics variables during cycling. Novel insight into the clinical characteristics and selected non-biomechanical factors of all gradual onset injuries and gradual onset knee injuries in recreational cyclists was presented. The results of his PhD will guide practitioners in injury prevention and management and guide event organizers to better prepare for recreational cycling events. Mr. Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice President, Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Andrea Antonio Elero, who has completed the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis titled Characterization of Inducible Proteins in the HepG2 Cell Line Proteome, under my supervision and with Prof. Ivan van den Boot and Dr. Tracy Hurrell as co-supervisors. This thesis reports on the proteomic changes in the commonly used HepG2 human hepatoma cell line when cultured in a three-dimensional spheroid. The study aimed to determine if three-dimensionally cultured HepG2 cells more closely correlate to the primary human hepatocyte phenotype, which is the gold standard for hepatotoxicity studies. The promovendus performed thorough characterization of two different three-dimensionally cultured models using multiplexed isobaric tagged peptide analysis, which provided relative quantitation of approximately 5,000 different cell proteins. The differential abundance of these proteins measured over time and after drug exposure were then analyzed using bioinformatic pipelines to assess whether these in vitro cell cultures could be potential preclinical hepatotoxicity screening models. Outcomes from these investigations indicated that the three-dimensional cultures of the HepG2 spheroids progressively upregulated expression of classic hepatic marker proteins over time, but the observed proteome changes do not fully support the model with respect to drug metabolism. But these three-dimensional HepG cultures could be useful in other bespoke model systems related to aspects of maturation of liver function. Mr. Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate. Congratulations.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Sharika Haniroop, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis titled Identification of Pharmacological Chaperones for Follicle-Stimulating Hormone Receptor Variants, prepared under my supervision and with Dr. Ross Anderson as co-supervisor. The follicle-stimulating hormone receptor plays a pivotal role in the control of reproduction and fertility. In her thesis, the candidate functionally characterized receptor variants identified in patients with reproductive dysfunction. Most inactivating variants were found to result in misfolding of the receptor protein and subsequent impairment of trafficking to their site of action. Others were correctly folded and localized but had impaired hormone interactions. A range of compounds were examined for their ability to restore function to these variant receptors. This led to the identification of pharmacological chaperone agents that were able to aid the folding and facilitate restoration of trafficking and function to misfolded variants. Allosteric compounds able to activate variants with impaired hormone interactions were also identified. This study has contributed to our understanding of the effects of genetic variants on follicle-stimulating hormone receptor function and has provided a proof of therapeutic principle for the use of receptor-targeting small molecules in treating reproductive dysfunction in patients harboring such variants. Mr. Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Maketo Khale Molepo, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis titled horizontal stability of the acromioclavicular joint for intact, disrupted, and reconstructed coracoclavicular ligaments, prepared under the supervision of Professor Natalie Keogh and myself and Professor Eric Homan as co-supervisors. In this thesis, the candidate aimed to investigate the effect of the position of the coracoid tunnel on horizontal displacement during coracoclavicular ligament reconstruction. A hydropulse machine was used to perform the biomechanical test, and during testing, an IDT NX8S2 camera was used to capture images of the lateral third clavicle on the acromioclavicular joint. The motion of the tested specimens was evaluated with the TEMA motion analysis software. The candidate observed that the position of the coracoid tunnel has no statistically significant difference in the horizontal anterior displacement of the acromioclavicular joint during coracoclavicular ligament reconstruction. The findings have implications, especially during arthroscopically assisted coracoclavicular ligament reconstruction, as it is challenging to position the coracoid tunnel at the base of the coracoid process. Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Ms. Marianne Ntanyane Pasha, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy with the thesis titled The Prevalence of Factor 13A Single Nucleotide Variants and microRNA 155 and Factor 13A levels in coronary heart disease patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus, prepared under my supervision and with Professor Priscilla Soma and Dr. Mia-Jean Van Roy as co-supervisors. In the study, Ms. Pasha evaluated the prevalence of Factor 13A single nucleotide variants in coronary heart disease patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus and its association with disease risk, clot kinetics, and molecular markers. The findings indicated that the presence of two variants, patients had a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, while the presence of one variant showed a higher risk of type 2 diabetes mellitus. Clot kinetics were also prolonged in diabetes mellitus patients, heart disease patients, and patients with the comorbidity. Coagulation factor 13A, mRNA, and protein levels were most significantly affected in patients with type 2 diabetes, and this is the first study which assessed the prevalence of 7 genetic variants of factor 13A in a South African population. This is a key and vital role in the advancement and support of personalized medicine in our country. Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Melez Abad-Reta, who is compliant with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis titled Prevalence of Tuberculosis and Distribution of Mycobacterial Genotypes in Symptomatic Attendees of Spiritual Holy Water Sites in the Amhara region, Ethiopia, prepared under my supervision and with Dr. Nontutuko Mananingi as co-supervisor. In his thesis, the promovendus assessed the prevalence and demographic characteristics of pulmonary tuberculosis among symptomatic attendees at spiritual holy water sites in the Amhara region, Ethiopia, from cultured sputum samples. Genetic strain diversity by polygotyping and drug susceptibility profiles by line probe assay of Mycobacterium tuberculosis isolates were described. A 5 times higher pulmonary TB burden than for the general Ethiopian population was evident in the holy water site attendees. A strong tendency for genetic clustering of strain types indicated recent TB transmission from common sources. Prospective follow-up of individuals with initial culture negative results revealed an increased risk for active TB following holy water site exposure. The study results point to holy water sites as a potential high-risk setting for transmission of TB, including drug-resistant tuberculosis, and intensified case finding and infection control procedures at these gathering sites in the study region are called for. Mr. Vice-Chancellor Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Nari Pritisikoba, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy in Human Physiology with a thesis titled Effects of Vascular Endothelial Growth Factor Receptor 1 Inhibition on Vasculogenic Mimicry and on the Metabolic Profile of Breast Cancer Cells in vitro. The candidate investigated how inhibiting VEGFR1 would impact the steps that contribute to vasculogenic mimicry, as well as on the metabolism of breast cancer cells. She used laboratory-based molecular assays and liquid chromatography mass spectroscopy to study the effects of targeting VEGFR1. The study provides evidence that VEGFR1 signaling contributes to VM and changes in metabolic patterns that promote the progression of breast cancer. Inhibiting VEGFR1 reduces breast cancer cell growth, as well as the attributes of vasculogenic mimicry. She has observed for the first time that inhibiting VEGFR1 signaling attenuates the formation of metabolic products that support a cancerous environment. This study provides evidence of the possible anti-cancer effects of inhibiting VEGFR1 and could contribute to improving breast cancer treatment. Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Carolette Snyders, who has complied with the requirements for the Doctor of Philosophy in Sports Medicine with a thesis titled Return to Sport Guidelines in Athletes with Selected Acute Respiratory Infections, including COVID-19, based on clinical criteria and laboratory investigations, which was prepared under my supervision. Return to sport guidelines after acute respiratory infection were not available at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Research for this thesis was conducted under challenging circumstances at the peak of this pandemic on athletes with confirmed SARS-CoV-2 infection. The main findings were that the total number of symptoms and a specific symptom cluster during the acute phase of SARS-CoV-2 infection were the best indicators of the severity of the infection, multiple organ involvement, and also determined the need to perform additional investigations. Total number and type of symptoms were also predictive of athletes that could resume training and ultimately reach pre-infection levels of sports performance. The novel findings of this thesis provide guidelines for medical clearance before returning to sport and physical activity after SARS-CoV-2 infection. Importantly, these guidelines were included in a recently published International Olympic Committee consensus statement detailing current best practice in return to sport decision-making after acute respiratory infection in athletes. Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate, and congratulations.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Medicine, Anesthesiology. Iris Benovic. Sipiwe Chauke Madunsela. Lucia Makupela. Megan Simmons. Masters of Medicine, Anatomical Pathology, Nsange Janda. Jessica McIntyre with distinction. Master of Medicine, Chemical Pathology, Helgar Trousseau. In Dermatology, Nonkululeko Malinga, with distinction. Nomzamo Mkizi with distinction. In Family Medicine, Paul Germeshuis. Tagushu Shaku. Master of Medicine, Internal Medicine, Svetlana Machevich. In medical microbiology, Ramateche Nswane. In medical virology, Crescelin Govender with distinction. Well done. In nuclear medicine, Janet Reed with distinction. Master of Medicine, Obstetrics and Gynecology, Alan Chanda. Busisiwe Dikhala. Benize Dladla. Nokwazi Gumbi. Geraldine John with distinction. Tebelelo Mashela. Masters of Medicine Orthopedics, Cherise Hutton. Comfort Stanley. Sven Strydom. Masters of Medicine, Pediatric Surgery, Johnson Masombe. In Pediatrics, Dijo Resoketse. Sizakile Mapumule. In Psychiatry, Deneli Naika. Masikala Nkondo. Master of Medicine, Radiological Diagnostics, Karim Zayan. Master of Medicine in Surgery, Hafeni Amumbo. Marukabi Motse. Franz Ndutora. Sipu Usetu Nkomo. Henning Pretorius. Master of Medicine in Urology, Marinka Hoek. Master of Medicine, Anesthesiology, Dikiledi Motswane. Master of Philosophy, no, we move straight on to Masters of Science in Anatomy, Nonshadu Botma. Mikisha Haripashat. Jonathan Udingu with distinction. Well done. In chemical pathology, Natalie Da Silva. In human physiology, Danyaradzwa Chamboko.
Ladies and gentlemen, the generator will kick in. We are not immune to HCOM.
Special moment for you. Petu Shlubi. Daniel Hubert. Brendan Kleinans. Sandisiwe Mashlangu. Miss Michelle Stephen with distinction. Niba Suratlal with distinction. Master of Science in Medical Immunology, Crystal Roux with distinction. Medical Microbiology, Divasha Govender with distinction. Felicity Mokomo. Nadia Strydom with distinction. In pharmacology, Sipisizwe Ndandwe. Melissa Petzer with distinction. In sports medicine, Armel Kadima. Jordan Leppen with distinction. Master of Science in Sports Science Biokinetics, Luanda Masilela. Master of Science in Sports Science Biomechanics, Cassidy DeFranca. Master of Early Childhood Intervention, Shahida Aufe. Zanmarie Dittmer. Nikita Eaton. Francis Egan. Zama Kuswayo. Hailey Lazaro. Marlunay Nel. Duduzile Nhlapo. Shannon Potgieter. Danielle van Wyk. Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Science, Honoris in Biokinetics. Desiree Buys with distinction. Christine Grobler with distinction. Nicola Hamann with distinction. Anine Hannekom with distinction. Erin Illich with distinction. Nicolas Janssen. Christian Jordan. Jessica Mendes with distinction. Timothy Michaels. Aaron Rubich. Carissa Schubert. Aldo Scribante. Paula Sequela. Elrise van Kradenburg. Bachelor of Science Honours in Chemical Pathology. No, wait. Bongani Gumede. Catherine Pickering. Yulisa Choma. In hematology, Molif Ndlovu. In human cell biology, Felicia Masetla. Megan Olfsen. Sophia Chabalala. Carmen Stein. In human physiology, Cecilia Besuidenhout. Alia Dademia. Liane Dupree with distinction. Maxine Hannan. Michaela Levintons with distinction. Come. Jenna Love with distinction. Diane Mons with distinction. Lesego Maruping. Kanyisa Mashwanganye. Totlo Matladi. Melinda Mini. Paige Milliam. Danishka Moodley. Danai Niemann. Johanna Ras. Jacobus Skeepers. Anna van der Linde. Lihani van der Walt with distinction. Salome van Eden with distinction. In macroanatomy, Brandon Boyson. Cameron Dancy. Jibanati Manana. Amale Untubela. Courtney Pierce with distinction. Medical Criminalistics, Anay Fourie. Samukilishwiwe Shlope. Mashela Malichi. Fransay Ulofse. Sebueng Ramotsukotla. Caitlin Robinson. Kaylee Robinson with distinction. Emma van Dijk. Medical Immunology, Nicole Chicken with distinction. Shudufatsu Singu with distinction. Kerry Stein with distinction. Medical Microbiology, Mukawani Mukhlamunyani with distinction. Egan Mulondu. Kazadi Ngoi. Jennifer Potgieter. Liz Spaltman. In medical oncology, Sangata Linda with distinction. Tembekile Maisela. Karabu Motupi. In medical physics, Mpo Madima. Nicolas Ruvetu. In medical virology, Lekaila Balakrishna. Gabriella Grobler. Mushi Nakana. Monia Reineke. In neuroanatomy, Kaylee Concalves. Luke MacDonald. In pharmacology, Darren Chetty. Darren. Simone Govender. Michelle Creer with distinction. Belinda Lewis with distinction. Dim Mbamba. Christy McGaw. Didimalu Mukhale with distinction. Yatisha Naidu with distinction. Adele Nell with distinction. Linda Nene. Ntakwana Rasemetsa. Danielle Richard with distinction. Priyanka Sook with distinction. In physical anthropology, Sharon Klute with distinction. Elena de Villiers. Pieter de Wet with distinction. Andy Mbaya. Lesego Nsemane. In sports science, Page Andrew with distinction. Amish Kuverji. Demi Leash. Kate Mandel. Andiswa Maseko. William Matlow. William. Kelly Uphoff. Tobani Kakaza. Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery. Afia Agiopong, with distinction. Saman Akhtar, with distinction. Joshua Ashfield, with distinction. Tsepiso Basela. Alexandra Beckerling, with distinction. Leanne Behrens, with distinction. Brendan Becker. Kathleen Best, with distinction. Samira Bayat, with distinction. Samira. Thanks. Raymond Bosch, with distinction. Arnay Both, with distinction. Barend Botha. Jacobus Botha, with distinction. Megan Bowden. Deray Boscale. Siska Brink. Alicia Buisman with distinction. Mduduzi Sele. Uwaya Claro. Kara Kutzer with distinction. Zinat Cohen. Bianca Costatre with distinction. Ashton Crawford. Lee Kruiwagen. Dominique Da Silva. Tasmia Darshot. Bilal Dawood. Bilal. Alexander De Freitas. Nicolette de Kok with distinction. Claudia de Kok with distinction. Konrad de Vries. Alulutu Dingisu. Talani Dratla. Caitlin Downs. Vicky Dupeson with distinction. Emily Duplessis with distinction. Francois Duplessis. Simone Duplessis. Sindisiwe Dube. Nonkulek Leku Duevu. Balungile Dzingwe with distinction. Barbara Emsley Botha. Fatima Esop with distinction. Manguliso Fakutswe. Ayabulela Fizani. Ayabulela. Remember, stop there. Brendan Fourie. Janae Garnett Bennett with distinction. Kayla Geldenhuis with distinction. Marnus Geldenhuis. Leila Good with distinction. Ineke Goede with distinction. Taylan Gompel with distinction. Lara Greiling with distinction. Mark Greiling. Michelle Harmse with distinction. Kaylin Harris with distinction. Rhoda Hartzer. Carla Hollenby with distinction. Grace Isiao with distinction. Muhammad Ismail with distinction. Cara Jacobs. Jacques Janse van Rensburg. Mohammed Suab. Celine Jordan with distinction. Vernig Kachelhofer. Cherise Kanay. Kamanu Khasi. Lungile Kumalu with distinction. Guapelele Kuwane. Tony Latre with distinction. Joshua Hubert. Vian Lawrence. Kamugelo Mabena. Tumishu Mabocha. Singubili Mabusa. Rele Bohile Machiche. Yanga Makozuma. Luvoyu Madikana. Mandisa Madikiza. Sinox Magadu. Akshay Maharaj with distinction. Zakele Malahlela. Kamugelo Maslobo with distinction. Tsepiso Maela. Jackson Maja. Joshua Majachani. Ontsiametse Makakane. Setsembiso Makamu with distinction. Relebugile Makhabu. Mulanga Makwanya. Moni Makwenting with distinction. Puti Makubela. Apilele Makwelo. Chantal Maluleke. Lesiba Mamabolo. Northern Mapiswana. Uiletsi Managa. Mangope Manaleng. Zamashesha Manzini. Esther Mapanga. Gama Elihandi Mashingu. Matlatse Masipa. Franco Matia. Ketukwake Maisela with distinction. Tandile Mbonane. Anani Umboy. Suk Umbu. Cherie Michau. Chelsea Mills with distinction. Elliot Mututle. Sianda Nisi. Katlejo Mudise. Keletso Mofokeng. Tsehufatso Mukhosao. Julia Mokhotwane. Desiree Munononi. Lebogang Mokuna. Balesa Mokuna. Motiu Molaba. Katlejo Mulepo with distinction. Ezra Moodley with distinction. Kelisha Moodley with distinction. Brendan Munsami. Abdul Musa with distinction. Lesego Moramaga. Tebatsu Mosamu. Lebogang Motola. No, what? Jolofelo Mpoglele. Fatani Mapudi. Boiswa Mutsuki. Tofuwani Muluvetsi with distinction. Vigneshwara Naikar. Kolosa Ndandani. Mpo Ndlovu with distinction. Akona Ndisele. Lianda Ndlovu. Nontutuku Ndlovu. Emmanuel Ndo. Bongeka Ndwandwe. Carmen Nietling with distinction. Natasha Nell. Gerard Nell. Gerard. Joanne Nell with distinction. Vutivi Ningolbela. Nzelitsi Netsipise. Nkululeko Kobo. Nomfundu Kobo. Umpumelelo Ngele. Masana Ngomane. Sinenhlankla Ngobane. Umgobe Ngwenya. Tobias Niebauer with distinction. Moleseng Mkhatse with distinction. Nomsebo Nkosi. Vuyishwa Nompumza. Mohammed Nur Mohammed. Toluana Nte. Kaya Ntlombe. Umtokasizi Ntluli. Precious Ngwigwe. Rostem Ukbwene. Mofesiope Olagolke. Tanya Westhuizen. Ariel Osborne. Karina Padiachi with distinction. Elna Parekadavel with distinction. Muaz Patel with distinction. Madeleine Pratt with distinction. Karina Pretorius. Christian Pretorius with distinction. Vion Pretorius. Rababalela. Adam Reich. Felicia Reinecke with distinction. Ashley Riley. Resuna Rivombo with distinction. Mishka Ruiz with distinction. Jodian Rossen with distinction. Karine Rousseau with distinction. Reuven Schmidt. Clarissa Skuman with distinction. Gwabuana Sephora. Mpo Sekhala. Nicola Sergeant with distinction. Sanelisiwe Chabalala. Bomkazi Shalala. Ajira Sikander. Nompilo Sitole. Sumanri Smith with distinction. Timothy Snyders. Porai Sisiba with distinction. Fakile Sombili. Nsika Sumbili with distinction. Joanne Spies with distinction. Annemie Stein. Tertia Stein with distinction. Chris Strydom with distinction. Benito Swart. Brittany Swart with distinction. Primo Tau. Leratu Tema with distinction. Quirin Carver with distinction. Aroma Tron with distinction. Nolwazi Tuzi. Kaylee Tromp with distinction. Yonela Tushwa. Christy Lee van der Heer. Corneille van der Merwe. Petrus van der Merwe with distinction. Petrus van der Merwe with distinction. Werner van der Merwe. Janet van der Walt with distinction. Carla van Lille with distinction. Christelle Viljoen with distinction. Danique Visser with distinction. Adrian Vlok. Marissa von Maltitz. Lumka Wumba. Tai Chiang Wang. Jalinke Weber with distinction. Zander Wessels. Andries Wiese with distinction. Natalie Woodhouse with distinction. Luke Worrell. Luandiso Jacobi. Nomatemba Zikalala. Lisa Zilwa. Last but not least, Lusanda Zongo.
Let us give our graduates a big hand for their hard work and perseverance. And I would now like to ask our graduates to applaud their families, friends, spouses, partners for their support over the years. We have now come to the end of the proceedings. Before we close, I would like to invite all present for refreshments afterwards in the marquees situated in front of the Rembrandt Hall. You are requested to stand for the singing of the national anthem and to remain standing until the assembly has been dissolved and the academic procession has left the auditorium. The words of the national anthem are printed on the inside back cover of the program. Please rise. By the powers vested in me, I hereby dissolve this assembly of the University of Pretoria.
Go!